It's still, we've been doing this Zoom stuff for long enough, but it's still not second nature, is it? Okay, so Kaizen Consulting Group, a lot of the people on the call of you know of us, a few of you don't. So we are a group of business coaches. We were established in Dubai, and we have offices in the we have a presence in the UK, but offices in the US as well, and some parts of the UAE. And essentially, we are a business coaching and leadership coaching firm. So we work with mainly small to medium-sized businesses and help them sort of overcome any barriers they have to growth, to taking their business to the next level. Very proud to say to date, we've worked with over 1,000 businesses now worldwide, and we have a team of coaches who have made that happen. Our vision as a company is to have a positive impact on the economy, society, and environment of the countries that we operate in. And that's our sort of underlying vision and mission, if you like. A lot of you will have some background to me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Ali. I'm a partner and a coach here at the Kaizen Consulting Group. So I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I trained with PwC, advising owner-managed businesses. And then since then, I've had a number of roles in Fortune 500 companies where I had commercial finance roles, and then also with owner-managed businesses where we were taking their business through this aggressive growth strategy. And here's the thing, as the finance man, I was always involved in what do the numbers look like, right? Are we hitting our revenue targets? Are we hitting our profitability targets? We would launch a project. How successful is this on the numbers? But what I realized very early on in my career is actually the success of a project was never really dependent on the numbers and the forecasting. It was always dependent on the processes that had been implemented, how people were managed and led through that implementation. And therefore, I took a real interest in people performance, but also how does this work in the system of a organization, and mainly a profit organization. And this then led me to go into coaching as a career. I have had, so most of you will know, I used to live in the UK. I now live here in the US. Which means my accent goes really funny dependent on who I'm talking to. And this is probably one of the few calls where we have people from North America and the UK on. So if you take nothing else from this call, maybe you'll get some entertainment value in terms of how my voice changes. So in terms of the agenda for today then, so there used to be a time, and I'm not sure if you remember this or not, where you would go to this big building and there'd be lots of rooms, and you'd go into this room and you could actually talk to people where there was more than 5 or 6 people in that room. Often this room would be filled with 50 people or 100 people, and you could eat together and discuss stuff, and you would listen to sometimes boring PowerPoint presentations, and sometimes you'd listen to really good, interesting stuff, right? This was the level, this was the world pre-COVID, before we knew it. But before COVID, this session used to be a one-day session. We'd have business owners sitting in a room, and we would take them through this quarterly planning session. And by the end of it, they would have a plan for the next 90 days of their business. Doesn't quite work out over Zoom. Very difficult to hold people's attention for that long. It's difficult to do it for an hour or a few hours, let alone a full day. So a little bit different, and I'm going to talk you through that process, okay? So first of all, we'll start off with just some introductions and get an idea of who's on the call. The first part of this then call is going to be the learning session, right? And we're going to be focusing on what are the components of a successful marketing strategy, right? I'm not going to be giving you sort of marketing strategies and say, hey, you do this and I guarantee your business will increase, but we're going to have some guiding principles that can be used, and then you can go away and tailor that for your business. We'll then have a break. So that's going to be about an hour or so. And then we're going to go on to the planning session. Again, we're going to spend about an hour, hour and a half planning your actual next 90 days. So we've got a workbook that I'm going to send to you that you can work through. And instead of completing that workbook from start to finish, because it requires a lot of reflection and there's no point you sitting here in silence and me sitting in here in silence while you're doing that, I'll be setting yourself up for you to do this, for you to make a start on the different parts of the workbook. And then what will happen is you, as part of this session, you're entitled to a one-on-one planning review. So if you're a client and part of our system already, we'll do this in one of your coaching calls. If you're not a client, then I'm going to send you a link where you can book on a one-on-one coaching call with us, and then we can actually review your plan, give you feedback, and actually finalize that. And that's much more effective way than having you here for the whole day over Zoom. Does that make sense? Are we happy with that? Good. Now, the main component of what we're looking at here is today, for the next kind of 45 minutes or so, is setting up your marketing machine, okay? And I deliberately call it a marketing machine because what I really want to get across here is that you want to set your business up in such a way that marketing is just part of your business, right? You know, it's part of most of our businesses to keep an eye on the bank balance, right? To do the month-end accounting, because that's really important. To get our tax returns done, it's just part of what we have to do, right? And I really want to make sure actually that the attitude towards marketing is also like that during good times and during bad times. Because the challenge is if my mindset is not like that, during good times, I feel like, oh, there's no need to do marketing because business is good. And during challenging times, like many of us are facing right now, it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I've got the budget to spend on marketing because things are really tight. Okay, so we really want to make sure we've got this balance that actually marketing is a fundamental part of our business to make sure we're doing it consistently. So, purposes of marketing, and this is where I'm going to require you guys to be brave, to unmute yourselves and contribute over here. But what do you guys think then? What is the purpose of marketing? Feel free to unmute and contribute. There's a few of you who talked about how actually you've been focused on this in Q1. So it'd be interesting to hear your guys' perspective, and anybody else.
It allows people to know what your products are, what your services are, where you are, and how they can connect with you via appointments, via physically coming into the branch or remotely from phone calls and email.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So part of marketing is actually allowing people to know who you are, what you do, and how they can interact with you. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Anything else?
Can I say something?
I can hear a really low voice. I'm not sure who it is and what you're saying. So if I can just ask you to speak up a bit.
I think I can listen clear. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you very much.
This is Uday Singh.
Yeah.
So, for me, again, you'll have to pardon me because I'm learning new language. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a government employee. I'm trying to see if I can. Okay. So in my case, the marketing is more about telling my team what the quarterly goals are, what are the things that need to be accomplished during this, and what had changed, what we met 3 months ago, and between 3 months, what are the new things, and what are how did we get some feedback, and then what resources the team might need, and how we can accomplish those goals. Is that reasonable?
So it's an interesting take, actually. So the context that we're talking about here is marketing to our end customers and our end consumers.
I see.
Right? So that's the purpose we're talking about. But actually, in an organization like yours, which is a wider government organization, or in huge corporates, this can often happen. Is that often like there's an element of internal marketing as well, right? Like we need to market our department to the rest of the organization so they know what we're doing. There's an element of head office marketing to local office to ensure that they are on board and know what's happening as well. So it's not totally out of the realm of marketing, if you like, but for this conversation, it's around our organization marketing to our end consumers who are going to end up purchasing off us and selling from us.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying, that I was a little out of the know, but I understand the context. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. No, thank you for that. And it's great because actually, you know, what we'll come on to next is that these are principles. So it doesn't matter whether it's
Yeah.
small business, whether it's government, whether it's large corporate, the fundamental principles apply. The way you change them is based on your industry and your organization.
And especially like for us, because it's a public organization, things are always hopping for public, but our staff of 15 is a more of a public for us to get them on the same, and especially during the COVID when half of the folks are working from home. And so I appreciate letting me think out of the box and try to relate with what you are trying to say.
Absolutely. Thanks for your contribution. I see a hand up from Ali Megji.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think with marketing is almost creating an affinity between the end user and yourself in terms of whether it's your product or service, or, you know, either meeting a need, or if you're trying to create a need with them that they might not know they have. It's, you know, when you're cold marketing, it's very unlikely if you're, for example, marketing a car, that everybody at that point is looking to change their car. But maybe the aim is when they are looking to change their car, you know, you are the person that comes to mind, you know. Whatever your affinities are with mobile phones, when people want to change their phone, they know they're going to Apple or they're going to Samsung or whatever it might be. They have that affinity, and that's the marketing job done over time.
Yeah, and that's a super valuable point. Thank you very much for that. And actually, we're going to be touching on that. But really, interesting comment that you made there, right? Was that actually it's about building up that connection. So when customer is ready, they know where we are, right? It's not actually, they may not be ready right now, but they could be ready at some point in time. So thank you very much for that. And we'll be definitely touching on that aspect of it. Anything else? Any other comments? Good. Okay, so let me show you what I had down here. And I think we've got some of them, but there are a few more things actually that I want to let you know about as well. Okay, so we had 2 and 4, and we mentioned that, right? So people know who we are and what the product that we sell. To actually engage with people, Karen, you mentioned that point, so they know how to sort of interact with us, if you like. To build a brand, and I think Ali, you mentioned that, right? So in terms of actually they have that connection and that affinity to us, so when they are ready, they know where to come. To actually sell, nobody mentioned this point. Actually, right, the purpose of marketing is the end goal, or the end transaction is that we sell something to our customer, maybe not straight away, but at some moment, at some point in time. And actually to retain, right? The conversations that we've had is around sort of new customers, but what about our existing customers? We also need to, often it's like an end game. We've done some marketing, now they're with us, now it's done, we don't have to worry about them, right? But yeah, but just like any other relationship, even when you're into that established relationship, you still need to maintain that relationship, okay? And one thing I'm just going to add on there as well is to educate, right? It's about educating people about the product, about issues. Why is it important to have an eye test every year, right? Why is it important for me to be know who my local pharmacist is, for example? So education is also an important aspect here. So they are the purposes of marketing. Essentially, what it leads down to is this. You do not want to be your industry's best kept secret. All right. Marketing is not a time where actually you're playing small, you're a secret and you're being humble. Actually, you want to be out there and you want to make sure that your customers know who you are, know where you are, know what you do, and are able to engage with you and buy from you. Right. Next then, first guiding principle that we want to talk about then is this concept called AIDA, okay? And it's an acronym, and this is where I test my Zoom skills. So it's an acronym called AIDA. Hands up, show of hands, or some sort of cue to say whether you've come across this concept of AIDA before. Okay. So AIDA is really the journey that our customer goes through. It's a 4-step journey that our customer goes through as they are deciding to actually transact with us. All right. Key thing is they are not interdependent steps. They are linked together, but it's very important that we are aware of this 4-step process when we are thinking about how we are marketing our businesses and our products. Okay. So what does AIDA stand for? First step then, the A is awareness, all right? Do our customers know that we actually exist? Right? The second then is, so if we think about awareness, what is this, right? You're driving down the road and you see a big billboard. You're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you see an advert from a company, if you like, right? It's that thing that grabs your attention to know, oh, actually, I know Homes to Let exists. I know, Peter Jackson Opticians exist, for example, right? It's just that name there to say, oh, there is a company called this and this is what they do. Okay, this is $100 billion industry, right? This is what big corporates spend billions and billions of dollars doing, is just to make sure that we know that their products actually exist. After awareness, then once I know that that company exists, right, then we need to get our customers' interest levels, right? What is it about your message that makes my customer interested in you, right? So you see an advert for a gym, but actually I know hundreds of gyms exist, and then I see an advert saying people who join our gym lose 10 kilograms in 2 months or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, now I'm interested because that's what I want to do, right? A before picture and an after picture of somebody who's attended that gym. And currently I look like the before picture and I really want to look like that after picture. Okay, maybe use this hair product and you will have a full head of hair within 2 months, right? Now you've got my interest. That's the product I'm definitely buying. Okay, so what is that grab then that's actually going to get your customers' interest? The next step then is desire. What's the difference? Any ideas between interest and desire? Feel free just to unmute yourselves and throw out some ideas.
You can be interested in something, but not ready to purchase it. And when you desire it, that's more of an emotive feeling. So you're more likely to act upon it. Yeah,
excellent. Yeah, exactly right. Right. So like the interest is there, but I'm not quite ready. But the desire is like there's an emotion. I'm ready now. Now I'm ready to act on it. Thank you very much. Riz, I saw you go off mute.
Just to elaborate on that, I think you can be interested without having desire, but generally if you desire, you've got a yearning for it, so you've already got the interest.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So you can have an interest, but not necessarily desire it. But when you desire it, it comes from a place of interest, right? And both very valid points. And I guess what I'm going to add on that, just so there's a clear distinction for your businesses, interest is when it's internal within me, right? Desire is when actually I've made my interest external, right? Is when I'm doing something about it, right? So I'm interested when I see your advert for your opticians or your pharmacy. I have a desire for your product or to interact with your business when I go onto your website or when I pick up the phone to talk to you guys. I'm not necessarily buying, but I'm doing something which manifests that interest. Okay? And the final piece of this is action, all right? And the action piece of it is now I go in and I actually purchase something from you and I buy something, all right? So arguably, the awareness and the interest a bit above the line is sort of marketing aspect of it, and the desire and action is the selling part of it. Okay, whether that's a function of your business, whether that's an individual in your business, whether it's you, but just making that distinction on which piece you're working on, the marketing or the selling part of it. Let's put a real life example to this to see how this works. So let's say that I am looking to purchase flights to, I'm going from Minnesota to Birmingham, UK, right? One home to the other for me, okay? So in terms of action, so in terms of awareness, what's gonna happen? Very likely, the first thing I'm gonna do is do a Google search about these flights, right? Now, there's gonna be different companies that come up, right? So in order for them to get my awareness, what are they gonna do? They're gonna have to do something to make sure I click on their link, right? Whether it's Delta Airlines, British Airways, whether it's one of these kind of like kayaks or these search engines, they're going to have to do something to make sure that their page appears when I type in flights from Minneapolis to Birmingham, UK, right? So then they've got my awareness. Now they may have like a screen grab, right? Something along the lines of cheap flights from Minneapolis to Birmingham, right? Maybe it's a different type of customer. Maybe it's like, you know, the best flight experience from Birmingham, Minneapolis to Birmingham, whatever it is, what's going to get my interest? I then click on there, do a quick search of these flights, get my prices. Now, what the airline industry do, and hotels and other people like that, is right, they give you an initial price because they know you're interested. The desire aspect comes in when, because then they put cookies on my laptop, right? And then when I go on and repeat that search again, they say, hey, this guy has come back for a second time. Now interest has turned to desire. Now we know that actually he really wants to purchase these tickets. And often what happens is they actually increase the price second time around, right? It's not sort of a secret that this is what the airline industry do, right? So they can track exactly where my awareness is, where my interest is, and what my desire is, which is then going to lead on to action. Why is this so important for your business? Because so many businesses that I work with will talk about what their marketing strategy has been, and it's been like, oh yeah, we done a leaflet drop, for example. We posted some stuff on social media. We spent X amount on this leaflet drop. We spent X amount on advertising radio. We spent X amount on the, and then what was the effect of that? Oh, well, didn't have much of a difference. Oh, sales went up 10% the next few weeks, and then they went back down, right? But what we really need to understand is with our marketing strategy, what are we doing? Are we looking to increase their awareness? Are we looking to increase their interest, their desire, or their action? So many of these marketing strategies are just focused on the bottom two elements, the desire and action. And actually what you need to be aware of is that either you're going to make sure that the few marketing strategies you do are hitting all 4 points somehow, or you're going to have a number of different strategies that tackle each area. Now remember, they're not independent of each other, right? They are intertwined somehow, but your focus is going to be in different areas. Does that make sense? Okay. So when I ask you to reflect on your own businesses over the past 12 months with whatever marketing campaigns that you have run, right? Think about where has been the main focus of your marketing campaign. Has it been on the awareness? Has it been on the interest? Has it been on the desire, the action? All of these or none of these? And I'm just kind of launching a poll. It's an anonymous, but feel free just to vote the last 12 months in terms of the marketing that you have carried out. Where has your main focus been? Thank you for those of you who have voted. I'll give you 2 more seconds. Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll just end the poll there. Most of you have voted now. So interesting results. So like kind of evenly split between awareness and action. So either we're trying to get people interested in our business, and I'll just share the results, or we're getting them to sort of that action phase. And actually that's just changed slightly as well. But you can see sort of where you are. This is where the insight bit comes in, right? So how is this related to my actual business? So an exercise for you guys to undertake. You're not going to do it now, but something for you to make notes of. Take a picture of this slide if that's what you want to do. But something for you to think about is, number one, what behavior would your customer be demonstrating at each stage? Okay, most of us don't have complicated algorithms like the airline industry do, and we're able to put cookies onto our customers' computers to see what they're doing. But typically, what would you see your customer doing at each stage of the AIDA model, right? And then the second thing for you to think about then is, what strategy would you implement at each step, right? What are you doing to make sure you're getting their awareness? What are you doing to get their interest? What are you doing to get their desire? And then what are you doing to get that final action, okay? And as a general rule of thumb then, if nobody knows about you, then awareness is lacking, okay? If nobody cares about you, then interest is lacking. If nobody inquires about you, then desire is lacking. And if nobody is buying, then action is lacking, okay? Now, that's a pretty generalized statement. It's probably not going to be nobody, but if you need more people know about you, then you know what to replace that with, right? If you need more people to buy from you, then you need to have these calls to actions and things like that. But that should then give you a model for actually setting up your marketing machine. Remember, if you're just focused on one area, you haven't got a marketing machine. You need to make sure that your marketing is focusing on all of these areas. Any questions, comments, or queries before we move on to the second thing that I wanted to tell you about? Okay, perfect. So the second thing then that I wanted to share with you is, when it comes to your marketing, there are two different types of things that you should be doing. And this is why we've got two roads, right? There's two different types of marketing strategies that you need to work on that are going to be working in parallel to each other, all right? They're not combined. Don't mix them up. They're two different things, but they need to both be happening, all right? What is that? Well, the first thing is inbound marketing, and the second is outbound marketing. Any ideas then? What is inbound marketing and what is outbound marketing? How would I define inbound marketing? Feel free just to unmute yourselves with any contributions.
Inbound marketing is when you'd have sort of potential customers calling you.
Yeah.
And outbounds, you could probably just define a cold calling. So you may have a list or a database and you're really going out and making the effort to call people as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit the nail on the head, right? So inbound customers are coming to us, right? It's the concept of actually we're farming, right? They're coming to us, we're doing things and they're coming to us. But outbound is actually we're hunting, right? We're going out and actually getting customers, okay? Here's the few distinctions that you need to be aware of, right? So with inbound, leads are coming to you, just as Riz told us, all right? These are organic and there's long-term benefits to this, right? Usually your investment is upfront and then you see the rewards for it over a long period of time. So it's leverage, right? You've spent a decent amount on your website, for example, but now your website is there, it's running, and it's gonna, it's an asset to your business and it's gonna last a number of years. The investment you've put into your social media pages, like you were telling us, Asif, you've spent Q1 doing a lot of that, but actually now you probably won't have to invest as much because all of that has gone into Q1, all right? Usually through inbound marketing, our cost per lead is a lot lower, right? Over a longer period of time. It's a much cheaper way of getting customers. Examples of our inbound marketing then, it's content that we're putting out there on social media. It's PR campaigns that we have. It's the website that we have, right? It's all these things that we've set up for the long term. It's the farming approach to our business. Your outbound then is that you're actively going out and getting leads. Okay, it's not organic. You kind of like invest a little bit now and you get the short-term benefits right now. It's much more of an immediate cash injection. Your investment is not spread. Actually, you get the benefits of your investment pretty much straight away, but then you're not going to get it in the long term. It's usually a higher cost per lead. Examples of this, maybe we're running a contest for our business. Maybe we've got offers, buy one, get a second one half price. Maybe we're using Groupon, for example. Maybe we're paying for pay-per-clicks and things like that. Okay. The difference between these two is that your inbound marketing is really focusing that awareness and the interest part of it. Your outbound is the desire and the action. Why is that really important? Well, again, remember we talked about with most businesses that I work with, their focus is a lot on the outbound. Yes, they have a website, but then it's about, oh, we're going to run an event. Oh, we're going to have a specific promotion, for example, buy one, get one half price, 50% off, whatever that is. Okay, we're going to send them a letter and we're going to say, come in by the end of April to be won in a prize and you're going to get such and such. Great, perfect, really good that you're doing that. But there's a challenge with that, right? And it goes specifically back to the point that Ali talked about when we were talking about marketing. Because if I take this graph and I have what's the interest level of my customer and how long they need to decide to buy, with my outbound strategy, right, maybe 10% of my customers are actually ready to buy from me, right? Maybe only 10% of my customers actually have a need for an AC unit, for example, or have noticed that their vision is not as good as it used to be, or actually have a property that they're looking to let out, for example, right? So if I put out some outbound marketing, then I am going to get sort of this 10% over here, and that's it. But if I'm doing inbound and outbound, then later on, when my customer is actually ready to buy, now maybe 25% of my customers are ready to buy. And then maybe 6 months later, 60% of my customers are ready to buy. And then 12 months later, 80% of my customers are ready to buy. I'm actually getting this whole area underneath the graph, right? It's about building that connection. It's about building those relationships. So they may not be looking to upgrade their phone right now, but when they are, they know that actually the phone has this feature and this device, and therefore we are getting a larger portion of our customer base. So the question I ask to you for your business then, in the past 12 months, in terms of the marketing activities that you have undertaken, right? What proportion of them has been inbound marketing? What proportion of them has been outbound marketing? Remembering that we need a range of strategies. No need to share, but just something for you to think about. Any comments, queries, or questions at this point? Any insights for your business? I'm not sure if that's because you're so deep in reflection that you're not answering, or you're just bored.
I think particularly for our business, where we've been, we're potentially seen as healthcare, but we're very much in need of private money. We've had restrictions that maybe other companies haven't had. They've had their own, I understand that, and we've been very lucky that we can open, but there has only been so much marketing we can do because our hands have been tied. So we're only supposed to see essential and emergency eye care, and yet technically we can't see anybody, but that's the government's crafty way of saying, I need you to be open and I need you to be seeing some people, but I can't actually say that you can see everyone. So we'll word it strangely. And that's been a little bit restricting. We've marketed people and we've sent out reminders to let them know that they can come in for site tests. But then when they do call, you have a string of questions that you have to ask them to make sure that they're eligible to come in for site test. So it's been a little bit difficult. It's got easier definitely the last 3 or 4 months, but at first it was very difficult to know whether you were doing the right thing, the wrong thing? Were you coming across too mercenary and not caring that the COVID was out there? It was very tricky for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate that would be a difficult situation to navigate. And based on sort of what we've talked about so far, is there any insights that you're getting in terms of your marketing strategy going forward?
So we're definitely looking more towards an inbound, outbound. Most of our marketing has been directly outbound, just to let people know that they can come in. You're quite right, leafleting, and we send a series of text messages and emails. A lot of feedback has been, I'm not ready, because they're scared to come. They're scared of breaking lockdown. We have a lot of elderly patients who didn't want to come out, but it has been important that we've still let people know that they can come to us, and we've definitely picked up more business, because what we have noticed is, whereas most of our branches are in the suburbs, people have been more secure to go to the suburbs and to go to larger premises and city centres. Yes. So we've definitely picked up more local. People have stayed local to home more, and so we've benefited in that way.
Yeah, that's really interesting and really powerful. And it comes back to that point, right? Like, I'm not ready. I know you're telling me you're open. I'm not ready right now, but then let's make sure that they don't forget about us. Like, there needs to be this constant drip feed of also inbound marketing that actually they keep them interested, make sure they're still aware of us, make sure they're still interested, so that when they are ready, they know exactly where to come, and not that they forget about us and then they end up somewhere else. And that's why it's really important to have this mix of inbound and outbound marketing. So thank you very much for sharing that. So there's the exercise then for you to do in your own time. So feel free just to make a note of this, write it down. But what inbound marketing activities do you undertake? What outbound marketing activities do you undertake? And how much resources are you spending on each activity, right? Whether that's time, money, effort, people allocation, whatever that is. Excellent. So the next piece then that I really want to talk to you about is what we call the minimum effective dose. And I love this topic, not in a geeky way, but I love this topic because it really combines sort of the finance and the accounting part of it and the marketing part of it, which in most instances, or in a lot of organizations that I have either worked at or our clients of mine, is there's often a conflict, right, of what's happening in terms of the finance world and what's happening in the marketing world. Because if you're in a bigger organization and you have these different departments, right, the marketing guys want to spend a bunch of money on marketing and selling and activities and events and promotions, and the finance guys are pushing back, and hey, that used to be me saying, no, we can't spend so much, and we need to kind of like hold back on this. If it's not a department in your organization, maybe it's one person in finance and one person in marketing, or maybe that's just you having an internal conflict within your head in terms of, I really need to grow the business, I really need to do some marketing, but actually it's COVID and my business has been hit hard, and actually I don't want to spend on marketing, right? So at some level there is this conflict, and I really want to show you that if you want to set up a marketing machine, if you want consistent growth in your business, then you really need to know your numbers, right? And you need to know them well. Okay, it's number one. And number two is how we think about this as medication. If you've got some sort of illness, and there's pharmacists on the course, so maybe I'm not the right person to give this talk, but if you go to the pharmacy and you're given some medication and you're told, hey, take this medication 3 times a day for 2 weeks, and I only take it 2 times a day for a week, and I don't get the results that I get, and I go back to the pharmacist and say, hey, this didn't do the job, then they're going to say, well, you never followed sort of the instructions that you're meant to follow. Okay, and this is how I want to make your marketing processes scientific as opposed to haphazard. Not that let's try this and see what happens, and then it's, we forget about it, or we just do a bit of everything. We really want to turn this into a scientific process. So how are we going to do this? Let's say then, and forgive me, let's say then, for example, our marketing investment was let's call it $5,000 for the month, right? And as opposed to that, then from spending $5,000 on marketing, we got 100 leads for our business. As a result of that, then, what would be our lead acquisition cost? How much did it cost us for each lead that we actually got? I'm going to test your mental maths.
50.
Yeah, $50. And I'm going to ask you to stay off mute, Asif, seeing as you've been the brave soul to answer. We're going to continue rolling with you. Okay, so our lead acquisition cost then was $50. Okay, let's say then from our leads, our conversion was 20%. Right, so from the 100 leads, we converted 20% of those into customers. So how many customers did we actually end up getting in the end?
20.
Yep, so we ended up getting 20 customers who actually sort of off us, okay? So therefore then, if I wanted to calculate what my customer or client, however you refer to customers, customer acquisition cost was, how much did it cost me to get each customer?
5,000 divided by 20.
Yep, 5,000 divided by 20, which is
250.
yep, $250. Okay, so I spent $5,000 on marketing. I ended up with 20 customers. Therefore, for each customer, I got $250. Okay, why is that important? Because once I understand my numbers, now then, what happens? And if I say, okay, in order for my business to grow, all right, or in order for me to reach a certain capacity, I want 4 new customers. If I get 4 new customers, then my business is good. Okay. Well, if I want 4 new customers, how much do I need to spend on marketing going forward?
$1,000.
Yeah, $1,000, right? So I know I want 4 new customers. I'm going to spend $1,000 on marketing to get my 4 customers. Or if I come to you and say, hey, Asif, I don't know, man, I spent $200 on marketing on this leaflet drop and I haven't got any customers. Leaflet drops are a waste of time. I'm not going to bother doing that. It's like, well, no, actually, if you only spent $200 on your marketing, then that's not even enough to get 1 customer. Does that make sense? So it's really important. Now, why this is important is so many businesses that I work with, what happens is that they've spent X amount of marketing. Okay, so what was the result of that? Well, my sales went up 10%. Okay, but out of that 10%, what came from the new customers? Oh, I'm not sure. I think this much, there's no way for us to track that. And the challenge is always, no, if there's anything you're going to do, it's important that you track it. I want to track how much I'm spending. I want to find a way, and if it's not obvious, then we need to find a way to track as a result of this marketing campaign, how many new customers have I had, or how much more are my customers actually spending, okay? Because once I know these numbers, and remember, it's going to be a different cost for different marketing strategies, right? Okay, different marketing strategies are going to have different customer acquisition costs associated with them. But once I know these numbers, then I'm able to maneuver in a way that I know going forward, I have a much more scientific approach to how I'm implementing this. Does that make sense? Any clarification needed here? Okay. Once I am able to do that, and forgive me, I'm just playing with Zoom again. Okay, so we can do that. Once I'm able to do that, then we would invest in marketing in a heartbeat because we know it's the fundamental part of growing our business. But because we don't know our numbers, we consider marketing as spending and not investing. We consider it another cost as opposed to an actual investment. So, exercise for you as you go away. What are your current numbers? What's your lead acquisition cost and what's your customer acquisition cost? That way, then, what strategies are not profitable in terms of what you're doing right now? What do you need to stop doing in terms of your marketing? And what do you need to do more of? You can only answer these questions once you have an idea of what your actual numbers are. And then finally, once you're able to do this, then you're able to set up an unlimited marketing fund. How great does that sound, that actually you can have an unlimited marketing fund? All right. What do we mean by this? Because once I know what my current customer acquisition cost is, then, and most of us know this, what's the average profit for my transaction? Okay. And if I know those two numbers, then what I'm able to say is, well, okay, every time I get a new customer, if I take the profit from that customer, invest it into my marketing fund, then actually, let's say average profit is $300. Well, let's say average profit is $500, just to make the numbers easy. Okay, I know that my cost of acquisition per customer is $250. If I take all of that profit, put it into my marketing fund, I can actually get 2 more customers from there. And again, my second customer, I do that and get more customers from there. I get the profit from my first sale and put it into my marketing. Then actually I can have this repeat business, and I'm just growing my marketing fund and growing my customer base consistently. Okay. Now, have I oversimplified this? Yes, absolutely, right? It's not sort of as easy as getting our exact number. Well, it is easy, but it's not always going to be the exact formula of this many numbers, this much spent results in this many customers. Okay, but is it that much more complicated than what I'm saying? Not really. The additional factors that we need to take into account is what's happening in your industry at the time, what's happening in the world. Are we in the middle of a global pandemic? Because that's going to mess up our numbers a little bit. But we need to have some factors to take these things into account. But actually, once we track this over a certain period of time, once we make some adjustments for what's happening sort of externally outside of us, we're able to have a good idea of this. Okay. Does that make sense? Brilliant. Okay. So they are the 3 components to setting up a marketing machine. Number 1, being aware of the customer journey in terms of this AIDA model, and what strategies do you have at each of these stages. Number 2, making sure we have a mix of inbound and outbound marketing. And number 3, then knowing our customer numbers, knowing our marketing numbers, right? So we're able to set up in a way that we can predict if we spend X amount, this is how much we're likely to get in return. But what underpins all of this, and one final comment that I'm going to make, is that not everyone is your customer. Okay, and actually what we really need to be really clear about is who are we targeting our message to. Okay, and we call this the red velvet policy. What's the red velvet policy? Well, if there's an event happening in central London and there's the red velvet policy, then guess what? 90% of the people in central London are actually going to be turned away, right? You're not wearing the right clothes, you don't have the right shoes on, you're not on the guest list, you don't have enough money, or you have too much money, whatever that is. Most people are turned away, but when the right people do turn up, you're excited to see them there, they're excited to be there, and you allow them into the event, right? What is your red velvet policy? Who is it that you really want to do business with, all right? Ask yourselves a number of questions. Is it business to business transaction, or is it business to consumer transaction? Let's say it's business to consumer transaction, then who is that individual that you want to transact with? What's their demographic? Is it based on age? Is it based on their gender? Is it based on sort of their locality and where they live? But more importantly, then, most of us know the demographic. More importantly, what's their psychographic? right? What are they really interested in? What do they really want? What really kind of lights up their world? And what actually does not light up their world at all? Going back to my flights from Minneapolis to Birmingham, am I the person who really wants the cheapest way of getting there? And that's what I'm interested. Or am I the person that wants the most luxurious way of getting there? Right? Because actually my marketing message is going to be different based on that. So whatever you're doing around those 3 steps, what we really need to have on the back of our mind is what's our red velvet policy for our customers. Questions you can ask yourself, and I'm not skipping this, but it's all over here. And this is what you can write down, right? How do you define your market? What are the top 3 to 5 traits? And in one sentence, what is their need and what is their want? That is the component of our building a marketing machine. Before we go for a break, any questions, comments, or queries people have?
I have a question. How do you decipher how to split your budget between inbound and outbound leads? So
Yes.
in your example, if you got $5,000, how much should we spend on what part? And how do you decipher that?
Yeah, great question. And the answer to that is really is where is your business at, right? So it could be you're in a space where actually you need some short-term injection into your business, right? Maybe like, you know, based on, maybe you're in a seasonal business, right? And, you know, the winter months are not great for your business. So maybe actually you need to have some more specific things to call people to action because you want to kind of bolster up those months. Right? Maybe actually you're in a place where in the short term you're doing great, but you want to future-proof your business for the long term, right? So in the first example, you would kind of like direct more money to sort of the outbound. In the second example, you would direct more money to inbound, right? So the key thing is that there's no kind of set kind of rule, if you like, but it depends where your business is. The key thing is though, is that if you want a machine is to make sure that consistently you're focusing on both areas, right? Now, the general rule of thumb would be, hey, look, if your business is not in a great place, let's focus on the outbound. Let's get those short-term wins in, right? And then we'll focus on inbound. But knowing that when we focus on inbound, that the investment upfront is going to pay dividends from the long term, right? Whereas your outbound, your investment is going to give you short-term wins. So it depends where your business is at in that journey. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, I think there's some perspective. But even with the short-term goals, those customers end up sort of being your long-term clients anyway, right? So it's not really that short-term. And so I guess what I'm saying is that if I invested more in the short term and look for the short-term wins, those kind of customers will be customers for a long time, right? And generally, they will also sort of have other properties to rent, for example, other landlords and all the rest of it. Whereas the long-term stuff, people are more just going on our website out of interest. Some may be converting, but it just seems if I just plow more money into the short term for a longer period of time, I've got more wins than I would otherwise.
And I think that makes sense for your business model, right? So your business model is one where client comes on board next month and you've got a fixed income for that client for the next 3 years, right? The challenge is though, is that, for example, even if I wanted to sign up with you, right? Maybe I've got a portfolio of properties. Even if I wanted to sign up with you, maybe I can't right now because actually I've got tenants in there and they're in some sort of contract and I can't break that, right? Or I've got another management company looking after my properties and therefore, you know, that doesn't end until 6-12 months. So even if I wanted to transact with you, I have to wait till that finishes before I even enter into agreement with you. So that's where inbound comes in, because outbound, you're like, okay, who's got properties available for me right now? And let's do something. Your inbound just sort of keeps me warm. Maybe I'm not even a property developer right now, but for some reason, I don't know, something happens and I inherit a bunch of properties, and now this is all of a sudden on my kind of agenda now, right? But with the inbound, because I know about your stuff, because I've been following your content, because of all of that stuff, when it does become relevant to me, now I know this is the place. Like, I'm not even gonna worry about looking too much into other people, because I know Riz is the man. I've got properties in London. He's the person I need to go to, because I've just heard so much of his stuff already. I already trust him, you know? And that's the difference.
Cool, thank you, that makes sense.
All right, perfect, excellent. Anything else before we take a quick break? Okay, excellent. So that's the learning component over. We're going to take like 5 minutes here, stretch your legs, get yourself a coffee, etc. What I will say is the next part of the session is interactive. You're going to be in pairs, you're going to be discussing things. So the request is, for those of you who don't have your cameras on, if you can put your cameras on for the benefit of the other person. If you're unable to be part of the interactive session, then I guess the thing is maybe now is a natural time for you to drop off, because if I pair you with somebody and you're not able to interact, then it's going to mess up the kind of learning for that person. So we'll take sort of 5 minutes there. It's 19 minutes past, so let's call it 25 minutes past. We'll come back, 25 minutes, the hour, wherever you are, and we'll come back and we will start our planning session for the next 90 days. Actually, before you go, one comment here is, for the planning session, we will be using a workbook. I'm going to post a link to that workbook in the chat box. It's a PDF editable workbook, so you can do it on your screen. For those of you who prefer to have something printed out, though, I'm going to put it on now so you can print it out if you really want to. But you don't need to. As long as you can see it and it's on your screen, that's going to be more than enough for you. Perfect. See you about 25 minutes past.